and for the rest of the show, we're going to be enjoying it in the presence of the great Jordan Maxwell. I don't need to tell you, he's one of the world's most respected researchers and scholars, no doubt about it. Writing and talking and broadcasting about the occult, religious philosophy, hidden politics for many, many years now, 5 decades, I reckon. He's been, you can find him on jordanmaxwellshow.com. That's where you must go to find him these days. That's jordanmaxwellshow.com. This is the latest in a series of monthly specials brought to us by www.freestylehomes.com. And I mentioned earlier on, get on to freestylehomes.com and send a big thanks to Andy Hunter, who is a huge supporter of the independent media, and he's a big fan of Jordan Maxwell's. Jordan Maxwell, welcome back to the program. How are you?
Oh, thank you for having me back on. I'm just doing the best I can here in Los Angeles area, you know. But anyway, I'm still here. Like I said to you before, I'm always amazed. I'm still here. I'm 75 years old, but
75 not out. In cricket,
yeah,
in cricket, that's a good innings.
Well, my body is tired, but my mind is going 100 miles an hour. So
brilliant. Yeah, talking about that before, it is a period. It is a very kind of a rich period in terms of the creative juices flowing around in your big old brain. There is a lot going on. Yeah, that's good.
And the subject I wanted to talk about, I think it's probably going to take most of the program to just lay the foundations of why I am saying what I'm saying, because it's a very big subject and it's a very tough one. And but I think it's something that needs to be said. It's been too long not talked about in public, so I want to talk about something that's very important. And that is how we got into how the whole world got into the mess we're in. I have an idea, because I've been looking at this for over 50 years, and it's finally I've been putting this together over the years and looking at it from every angle. I want to go back to a book that was written, I don't know, maybe 3,000 years ago or more, in the ancient Grecian Empire, and it's called The Theogony of Hesiod. Spell Hesoid, Hesiod. The Theogony of Hesiod was a book that we're told that Hesiod lived about 700 BC, and he was an illiterate herdsman in ancient Greece. And in the book that he wrote, he said that he was out with his minding the flock as a herdsman, and that three angels that were glowing, and he called them, or he said that they told him that they were called muses, M-U-S-E-S, muses. And he said that these three muses floated up to him. They didn't walk up, but he saw them coming, and they floated up to him, glowing angels. This is from the Theogony of Hesiod. And of course, when these muses floated up to him, incidentally, this is where we get the word museum and music and amusement. Is from Theogony of Hesiod, muses. So anyway, the muses telepathically told Hesiod that they wanted him to write a book about the gods that ruled over the heavens. And he told them that he could not read or write. He was illiterate. But they said that they would guide him by automated writing. And they would begin to download the so-called pecking order of the gods in heaven. They wanted him to write down for us humans all the gods in heaven, and who controls who, and who works for who, and who's important and who isn't, and all that kind of thing. And so it became that whole book became known as the Theogony of Hesiod, where he explains all the different gods in our universe. But they told him that the god over our particular area of the Milky Way galaxy, it's a big galaxy, but over our particular area in which our solar system is, The god who was assigned to this area to be in control is a god named Zeus, Zeus. And they said that Zeus lived on a floating city. That's interesting. He lives on a floating city in the constellation of Cassiopeia. That alone sounded interesting to me a long time ago, that Zeus lived in a floating city in the constellation of Cassiopeia. And the Muses went on to tell Hesiod that if Zeus were to drop an anvil from his front porch, it would take 9 days and 9 nights and so many hours for it to hit the earth. Well, it's easy to calculate that distance, which is about a little over 3 million miles from Earth. And so they said, according to Muses and Hesiod, I mean, I wasn't there, but according to Hesiod and the three Muses, Zeus is referred to as our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, Zeus, end quote. So, and he lived about 3 million miles from the Earth in a constellation, as I said, by the name of Cassiopeia. Now, it's interesting that back in 1930, the 1930s, there was an American astronomer named Carl Jansky, Jansky, Carl Jansky. And Carl Jansky built the first radio telescope. And of course, he won a Nobel Prize and has been called the father of modern radio telescopes, Carl Jansky. Then he also built a radio transmitter to beam signals into the heavens. And so somewhere around the mid-30s, 1930s, just to see what would happen, he began to transmit a signal to Cassiopeia. The article said it was 14.3 megacycles. And and if you can believe it, he got back an intelligent signal that was amplified, but he didn't know what it meant or who had sent it. So that is important, that he sent out a signal to Cassiopeia, but he got he got back a signal, which was highly intelligent. Obviously, somebody sending back the signal, and it was amplified, which shows that it's it's not by chance out there. Somebody amplified it to make sure we got it. But as I said, Carl Jansky did not know what it meant, and or who sent it. But the story gets better. So let's hold on just a minute.
This is great stuff. I'm so glad you're getting into this. This is brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting because I got my notes all messed up here for a moment. Hold on.
Don't take your time. This is amazing. Yeah. This Jansky, and this is around the 1930s. He said early 1930s.
Yeah. Right. Around 1930s. Now, incidentally, when Carl Jansky died, all of his notes were immediately taken from his office by, quote, men wearing black suits, end quote. I don't know what that tells you.
The men in black.
Yeah, the men in black.
Wow.
And so when Carl Jansky died, obviously somebody knew what he was doing and realized that he was getting messages back. So they wanted to make sure that kind of information doesn't get out. So men in black suits went through his office and took all the paperwork. Then later, in the mid-40s, a Scottish astronomer named Duncan Lunan, Lunan, Duncan Lunan, a Scottish astronomer, was working with Carl Jansky's radio telescope. And he also sent out a signal aimed at Cassiopeia. And he too got back a signal about 20 seconds later. And that signal was both intelligent and amplified. And like Jansky, he didn't know what it meant or who sent it. But Duncan Lunan narrowed the signal down to a particular star or a light in Cassiopeia, which is today called the Lunan object, Lunan object, the Lunan object. and you can look it up in encyclopedia. Lunan object is a spot in Cassiopeia where these two astronomers were communicating with somebody out there 3 million miles away. And so that tells you that something was going on out there to start with. Now, let me make sure I got my notes here. There's
Jordan,
so much to it.
this is proof, isn't it? The paper he wrote, by the way, now I don't know any of this. As Jordan
Yeah.
is talking, I'm doing a quick bit of research while Jordan is talking. It's amazing stuff, this. The paper he wrote was called Electrical Disturbances Apparently of Extraterrestrial Origin. Jansky was convinced that this was extraterrestrial in nature. And to confirm what Jordan said, yes, all these research materials were seized when he died. Every bit of it.
Yeah, it's been around. That story's been around
Didn't
for a
know it.
long time.
Didn't know this is. I love this. This is the essence of this program. I didn't know any of this. Amazing. Anyway, I'll shut up. Carry on, Jordan. Brilliant.
Well, anyway, so now we go to another subject. The word Father, because the Christians use that term, our Father. Well, in the ancient Sanskrit language, Father is Pitar, P-I-T-A-R, Pitar. In Old Persian, the word father is Pitta, P-I-T-A, not P-I-T-A-R, but in Old Persian is P-I-T-A. While in Greek and Latin, father is Pater, P-A-T-E-R. I remember many years ago hearing about pitter patter. Well, now I know what it means. It's father in Sanskrit, and father in Greek and Latin is pater, P-A-T-E-R. In ancient Greece, God the Father was Zeus. And so the official title for the god Zeus was Zeus Pater, P-A-T-E-R, simply meaning God the Father, because God is Zeus. Now, the Latin word God is not the Latin word for God, is not Z-E-U-S, Zeus, but D-E-U-S, Deus. And in the ancient Rome, God or Zeus was called I-U Peter, P-E-T-E-R, capital I-U hyphen P-E-T-E-R. This is Zeus in ancient Rome was Iupita. I's are interchangeables with J's, so Zeus or Iupita becomes J-U, Pita.
Wow, right.
Which gives us Jupiter. In the Vatican today, there's a statue of an Apostle Peter. Is not Peter. Christians going to the Vatican, seeing the statue of Peter sitting in the chair, and they're kissing his feet. They've actually kissed his feet so much that they kissed the shoes off of. It's wore down the statue, with the billions of people kissing his feet. So there's a statue, as I said, in the Vatican. I've seen it. I was there, and it says that it was the Apostle Peter. But actually, all the reference works and the encyclopedias will tell you, no, it's not Peter, it's Jupiter, J-U-P-E-T-E-R, which is a Roman word for God, or Jupiter, the king of the gods. So what I'm saying is that in point of actual fact, Catholics and Christians all over the world are still praying to God, Dios in Latin, or Zeus. So today, even today, there's a Suez Canal, which is Zeus spelled backwards. So once you begin to see that the God of the Vatican is Zeus, and goes on for that goes back a long time ago, and all the terms and symbols in the Vatican go back to the Greek and Roman era. While we're on the subject, Greek Zeus, as I said, becomes Roman Jupiter, and another name for Jupiter is Jove, Jove. So when you hear someone say that God is love, and I remember you hearing that and wondering, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. God is love. No, now I understand. Mistranslation. No, it's God is Jove, Jove, not Love. God is Jove. Well, of course, it goes back to the words in both Latin and Greek for God, which is Deus or Zeus. So in the ancient world, it was believed also that God Zeus protected royalty. It was said that Zeus, or our God, chooses the royalty. And this is why today royalty will tell you they have a divine right to rule. Where did they get it from? They got it from God. In Latin, Deus, and Greek, Zeus. So all royalty in the world are actually ruling for Zeus. And I don't know what that tells you, but that would explain a lot to me why the world is in such chaotic lunacy going on, because somebody out there was sending signals back to these two astronomers. And the only reason you didn't hear about this extraordinary situation where astronomers back in the 30s and 40s were communicating with somebody in the Cassiopeia constellation, the reason you don't hear about it is because the scientists, first of all, do not want to talk about anything whatsoever that they themselves didn't discover. And so if they didn't discover it, and they're not discovering something for their college and their university where they're making their money, then they're not going to talk about it. And of course, obviously, today's science would never discuss this in public because they don't know anything about it, and it would make them look like a fool, which they are anyway. So that's why you're not going to hear much about this. But go back and do some homework, and you will find we've been communicating with somebody intelligent, probably all over the universe, but for sure, somebody intelligent's been sending us signals from Cassiopeia as far back as the 1930s. And
can I ask you a question on that before you move on to? So could it be argued then, have you made the argument, or have you considered the argument that whatever is sending these intelligent messages from the Cassiopeia constellation is communicating with the elites on this planet? And if that's the case, then this intelligence in the Cassiopeia constellation isn't necessarily benevolent, Jordan. It's got to be some sort of malevolent intelligence.
That's exactly what I'm getting to. That's precisely where I'm going with this. That the people, royalty, and those people in power today are getting their marching orders. They are being communicated with by some higher intelligence that I would suggest should be referred to as an EBE, is what the term is used today. EBE stands for extraterrestrial biological entities, meaning someone out there is as real as you are, and you're real on this earth, they're real on their planet, but they're higher intelligence, far, far superior to anything on the earth. And they have been, according to the ancient peoples of the world and all the ancient teachings of the Hindus, the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Greeks, the Romans, all of the ancient cultures talk about, and all the ancient religions talk about, the gods, the terms which are used like demons, devils, poltergeist, spirits, all kinds of other world entities are talked about in the Bible. Sons of God, that's a whole different subject. And so what I'm saying is that there's something going on outside of us. And this is why I'm sure that the Knights Templars, who are today referred to as the international bankers, but the Knights Templars back in the 9th and 10th century had a saying of as above, so below. Well, that makes sense. If they were getting communication, some sort of a communication that we're not aware of, but they were getting it, guiding the Knights Templars to set up a world system of banking, of government, and of religion, and to ultimately take over the entire planet for somebody out there. And they get to ride the wave and live high as long as they are serving their masters from somewhere out there. Well, this concept is not new. I mean, my God, this is what the Bible's been talking about for, from day one. This is what all the ancient religions of the world talk about, the gods, the ancient ones. And it might turn out to be that what we call mythology may in point of fact be, no, not just a story. It may be actual communication of stories about the world that has been misrepresented to you, saying that people like gods like Zeus are all a bunch of mythology, is just stories. Where it very well might turn out to be, no, there is a biological entity, an extraterrestrial entity, we call, gods or demons or whatever you want to call them, that have been in communication with humans all along. And that's a secret that's kept among the elite. The elite today are able to make decisions and have powers over us that we can't comprehend, we can't do anything about, we don't know anything about it. And of course, knowledge is power. And since we have no knowledge of any of this going on behind our backs with the powers that be, so to speak, now it would begin to look like maybe all of this chaos that we are experiencing on the earth has been from day one, as far back as we have human history. Somebody is manipulating and controlling the human family, and they're using their human counterparts to do it. So while we are crawling on our knees and making signs of the crosses when we see the Pope, and crawling on our knees when we see, Prince Charming and the queens and kings and rulers, how they live and roll around in gold chariots and flip their cigarette ashes on the working class people. It very well might be that these elites are in league with higher spiritual dimensions, and that the entire world of mankind, like the Bible says, the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. It doesn't say the whole world except Alabama or the whole world except Canada. No, it says in the scripture the entire world of mankind is lying in the power of the wicked one. Meaning, we should go back and explain to you that the word Zeus, first of all, we know him to be the king of the gods, or a Greek god of the sky. Zeus was the first of the gods, and I'm reading from encyclopedia. He's often referred to as the father of gods and men. He was a sky god who controlled lightning and thunder, and he used it as a weapon. This is interesting and important, that Zeus was the god of lightning and thunder. Why? Because in the book of Job, the Old Testament book of Job, talks about the Almighty God, the one that we think is the Jewish God. No, it's not the Jewish God. We're talking about Zeus, but it's in the Old Testament. And incidentally, the book of Job is the oldest book in the Bible. We're not sure where it came from. So in the oldest book in the Bible, book of Job, Job 26 says about God. Job says, behold, behold, these on the, wait a minute, let me read it. These are but the outskirts of his way, and how small, and and how small a whisper do we hear. Then it goes on to say in Job 26:14, but the thunder of his power is very great and past understanding. Job 37:5 said, God thunders wonderfully with his voice. There are other scriptures in the book of Job and other scriptures in the Old Testament talks about we see God through his lightning and through his thunder, he talks to us. So what you're talking about in the Old Testament is not Yahweh or Jehovah. You're talking about Job. You're talking about Zeus, the god of lightning and thunder. It's written in the scriptures that God thunders with his voice. So once you understand that, Zeus was the king on Mount Olympus. And it says in the scripture, I mean, it says in the reference work that Zeus rules the world and imposes his will on all mankind from Mount Olympus. Well, that's important because if you start with, say, Zeus being God, or Deus in Latin, God, which is Zeus, Zeus's holy mountain was Mount Olympus. Well, there are at least 15 holy mountains we know of on the earth. A few with like Mount Fuji in Japan, Mount Ararat in Armenia, Mount Athos in Greece, Mount Everest. Even in California, we have Mount Shasta. And as we've already, maybe you've already figured out that Mount Olympus becomes, for the ancient cult worshippers of the moon, in the ancient world, there was a moon cult in the Middle East where Mount Olympus was. But this ancient moon cult, they had a god named Sin, S-I-N. Sin was the name of the moon god in ancient Arabia. And the mountain was called Ai. You put the god of the mountain Sin with his mountain Ai, it becomes Mount Sinai. So Mount Sinai, and later on, the organization, the World Organization of Mount Sinai, put together the idea of a Mount Zion. So the bottom line on all of this is that the ancient moon god of Arabia, which was Sin, S-I-N, or we today refer to Sin as Allah, and the Hebrews talk about the moon god as Yahweh. Yahweh and Allah are the same God, going back to the ancient god Sin, which was a moon cult. And so many of the holy mountains of ancient Arabian moon cult, like Mount Sinai or Mount Zion, are today felt to be so holy and so righteous and important, when actually what we're talking about with Mount Sinai, Mount Zion, with all of the holy mountains, all of it is going back to the theogony of Hesiod. It's going back to something 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. Somebody, some angels, some spirit entities. I mean, we know that they exist. All kinds of dark forces are at work around the world. So what am I saying? I'm saying that there's no doubt in my mind that the religions of this world, I don't care which ones they are, I don't care what you belong to, what cults or what sect or what religion you belong to, if it's Islam or Christianity, Judaism, all of these religions are all connected behind the scenes. If you go back far enough to thousands of years ago, you will begin to see that the ancient peoples were worshiping a actual extraterrestrial biological entity. There were, in fact, extraterrestrial presence in the universe and on the earth that we ourselves are not seeing. So we put these ideas into our mind that we're talking about God and we're praying to the Lord, etc., never realizing for a moment what we're talking about is a very hidden, dark secret that the powers that be in this world, what we call the elites, have known from day one. This is why they don't get excited or angry or get upset about the people crying out and rioting in the streets. They're not bothered. The people like Obama and all the others who are running this world are not interested or bothered by people, in the streets rioting for justice. They don't care about that. They're not moved by that. You can see these wealthy people roaming around in their gold chariots. They don't care about what you think and about what you don't like.
So Jordan, they don't fear an inevitable turning of the tide where people stop fighting one another and turn their attention on them. They don't worry about that.
No, they're not the bit worried about that. Not even a little bit. Why? Because they know they are in touch with a higher power that you don't know about. They are in touch with and in league with demonic, powerful, otherworld powers. Well, that's what the Bible's been telling us for years. I mean, the scriptures, for instance, in Revelation 17:18, follow this. From the Bible in Revelation 17:18, and it says, and the woman you saw is the great city that has an empire over the kings of the earth. That is extraordinary. I mean, if you think about what you just heard.
Yeah.
Revelation 17:18 says, and the woman you saw is the great city that has an empire over the kings of the earth. That's implying that there's some kind of a world empire that's been in existence from day one that controls nations, races, kings, and all of the so-called elite. Then in the book of Ephesians 6:12, the Apostle Paul says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the world rulers in high places. That is really important. Go back and listen to this again. Ephesians 6:12. In the New Testament, the Apostle Paul says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, meaning government, against powers, and against the rulers of this world of darkness. Well, we know the world is in darkness, but the scripture is showing there are rulers over this world of darkness. They're keeping it, so they're keeping you for thousands and thousands of years, keeping the human race in the dark.
But you're not telling us we're screwed, though.
Say it again?
When you said that they don't live in fear that eventually we will turn on them because of the power they are drawing from the otherworldly entities. But at the same time, I've known you a few years, you're not telling us that we're screwed. There is a way out of this.
Well, yeah, let's go on.
Can I do a recap? I've got to take a break. I'm going to do the floor again. This is exceptional stuff. It's the very reason this program was set up to begin with. We've been chatting with Jordan Maxwell for the last 35 minutes. We started off talking about Hesiod, who wrote a poem called the Theogony, way back around about 700 BC. He was visited by entities, Jordan was explaining, which explains to him the origins and the genealogies of the Greek gods, who they were, the pecking order, and all of that. And Zeus came up in the revelations made to Hesiod. And we learned that Zeus was the king of the gods, and we learned where he was based. He was based in the constellation Cassiopeia. And this is very important. And what we learned then from Jordan was that an astronomer, and anybody who studies astronomy will know more about this guy than I do, because I know very little about him, Karl Jansky. He was a physicist and a radio engineer, and he was crazy about astronomy. And he's basically the guy who founded radio astronomy. Back in the 1930s, he was sending signals out into deep space in the direction of the and started to get some answers. He started to get signals coming back. This is incredible. He wrote this is happening you know, this is an extraterrestrial, signal. When he died, everything that he owned and all his research materials were taken away, and they were, I suppose, destroyed, or they were put far away from where the rest of us could see them. But later on, Scottish astronomers and others were able to validate what Jansky had discovered, this extraterrestrial signal coming from Cassiopeia. And then Jordan was talking about the elites on this planet and how they are well aware of this and how they have been in communication with this intelligent form of life, this entity who is based, or whose energy is based at Cassiopeia, and it's what they draw their power from. And he went on to explain that in more detail. I think that's not a bad summing up, is it, my friend, before we take a quick break?
Yeah, well, one last thing I wanted to add about the Latin word deus, which comes from Zeus, Deus. In the old Persian language, Deus is referred to as Daiva, D-A-I-V-A in the old Persian, which means evil or demonic god. So in the ancient Persian, Deus or Zeus or Diva becomes an evil demonic god. So by a dictionary definition, that would mean that Christianity worldwide is worshiping an ancient demonic god, and, or said another way, an extraterrestrial biological entity, which is very, very powerful, very knowledgeable, sending communications to the elite of the earth. And Nikola Tesla talked about this, and all the great minds in the world have talked about this, from Plato, and all of the different philosophers talked about the communication with the devil, communication with the evil ones, or communication with the gods. This idea has been around as long as man has.
This is brilliant stuff. It's 9 minutes past the hour. Jordan is going to stay with us. We'll be back with him in about 2 minutes' time. We've got a quick ad break to take. I will put one or two tweets to him, but there's a lot for him to get through. And then I'll get out of his way while he continues into this. This is amazing stuff. You're with the Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIcke.com. Don't go anywhere.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or others to which device? Solutions.
Paul was on to say, Richie, did the same gods Jordan is describing, did they create us and the earth? That's a brilliant point. And further on from that point is a brilliant one from Martin Noakes. Great show, he says. If they are all powerful, why not openly take us over if that's what they want? So did they create us, number one? And number two, if they're all powerful, why not openly take us over and be done with it? Great stuff.
Yeah, well, if they did that, there would be mass rebellion, because now the cat's out of the bag. There is no God going to save you. You are a test tube experiment, and you've been produced so that you could be a slave to the gods who created you. And now the whole human race would rise up in revolution against such tyrants and against such extraterrestrials. And so that would be stupid. That would be foolish technologically and militarily point of view. It would be foolish for the gods to allow us to know that. They want to keep it quiet because the humans are rebellious to start with. But if we ever, as a human race on the earth, found out that we were nothing more than a test tube experiment by some ancient god who has a mind controlling us, then it needs to be kept quiet, because if the whole human race found out, my God, there would be massive chaos, because the bottom line is every single human has its own will, its own mind and own will. And so the intelligent thing to do would be just like human governments and human religions do. They're not stupid. The human governments and religions will try and work with you. They will give you this, they will give you that, and let you vote on this, and let you vote on that. And you have certain rights and freedoms to speak and do what you want, and eat what you want. And so that you are free. In fact, no, you're not free. You've never been free. But they don't tell you that. They don't come out and just tell you, because if somebody came out and told you what was going on, you would rebel quickly and there would be worldwide revolutions. So obviously, whoever it is that created us and put us here and have been leading us along against religions, philosophies, our government, our institutions of education, our banking, our whole incredible system that we live under on the earth. If somebody, whoever those somebodies are not so stupid as to tell and allow the world to know we own you and we're just playing with you like you and I would do with a fish in a bowl.
Jordan, tell us this, because this is really important. 14 minutes here. Is there compartmentalization going on here? Who knows who it is? I'm guessing that the British royal family, at the highest levels of that family, are aware of it. But do sitting ministers, presidents know it's Jordan? Are they left in on this
Oh
secret?
yes, oh
Do they?
yes. There's no doubt in
Yeah.
my mind about that. I've talked to people very high in government, very high in religion. Over the past 55 years, I've been doing this kind of thing. And for the first 40 years, I knew about these ideas and concepts, but really didn't see it. I didn't really take it to heart. I just understood it intellectually. But as you get older, you begin to perceive things differently as an older person does. So after looking at the world and traveling around the world and talking to experts in all the countries and reading and studying all of this kind of stuff going on in history, it becomes overwhelmingly now obvious to me that that the royalty, the power blocks, the powerful people in this world, they are in league with. And how many times have you heard movie stars and important people, especially in the entertainment business, talking about how they sold their soul to the devil?
Regularly.
Yeah.
That's an amazing point.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what are you talking about? Sold your soul to the devil to be famous and to be wealthy. Well, it implies, obviously, that somebody out there, as above, so below, somebody out there has an absolute total control over whatever happens in our little Mickey Mouse Earth and our little solar system. There are higher powers. I mean, Hollywood's been telling you that for years with the V and the visitors who come here from another world, who have all the high technology. And then on the movies like V, the big shots who want to be in with the visitors. They want to crawl over and be they want to represent the visitors. They want to be in power. So when the visitors, whoever they are and from wherever world they have come from, they're obviously powerful. They are obviously in charge. And so the people who are traitors to the human race want to jump in and say, I'll represent you. Let me be the president and let me be vice president and I'll represent you and I can now ride around in gold chariots and flip my cigarettes on all the poor and I can live like a king and a prince. If you let me be a part of it. I don't want to be like the working class people. I don't want to be the slaves. Let me represent you. And so they are representing demonic forces that are over this earth for thousands of years. We have known that.
Jordan, can I just jump in there? This is very important. This is amazing stuff, by the way, and thanks for this. On this point about them representing demonic forces, we are finding more and more things that as children they survived horrendous abuse, and a lot of that abuse was satanic in nature. Satanic rituals were going on. And it's amazing, Jordan. Right? You're somebody earlier tell you a story, and she describes things happening to her when she was a child. And then you talk to a chap who's in Oregon, and he tells you it's the same story and describes the same things. And you hear from somebody in South Africa. It's incredible. How important to them is the abuse and the murder and the ritualistic events that they put on, killing children? How important is that to them?
Oh, well, I wasn't even going to get into
I
this,
know that, but because we were talking about it this week, I had to bring it up. Go on.
No, but I was going to say I wasn't going to get into this, but it's a very important part of this subject, so I might as well talk about it. when you're talking about creation, and the idea in Christianity is that only God can create life. Only God creates life. Well, in point of fact, that's a misnomer. Because in the male, in the man, in the time of the fluid, the human body, the male, and so before ejaculation in sex, it is fluid. It's just a body fluid that the body produces. But at the time of ejaculation, there is an electrical discharge of some electrical discharge in the human male, which then creates from that fluid actual living and what we call sex ejaculation. The something happens to that fluid, which now becomes system and create a new human. So when we say that only God can create life, well, that's what man does in sex. Now, the incredible sexual high sex obviously is some sort of electrical frequency that is affecting the man during sex, and that is the life. That's what's putting life into the sperm so that they can create another human. That's why we say that manufacturing and the woman is in labor creating the new product. So when that it gets back into the thousands of years ago, the maritime admiralty concepts of humans being nothing more than a human resource, and that somebody out there has designed us so that when we recreate a human, there is an electrical frequency that goes through our bodies and our brain, the male and the female, that is an electrical system that is in fact creating another living creature. So what I'm saying is that there is something to this idea of sex in relation to communication with the who created us. There's something going on bigger than just all this evil sexual state. No, there's a reason why the sex is an important part of all of this, because it is the time, that moment when man leaves himself and becomes one with the divine and that spiritual feeling during sex. So what we're talking about is some kind of a communication system whereby the man and the woman are connecting to the divine presence, which is referred to as God. And so there's a very important connection between sex and the secret rituals, sexual worship, sexual abuse. That's why it's in churches. That's why it's in all three major religions, not only in the Catholic Church and the Protestant Church. You're seeing sex abuse in all the cults, but you're also seeing it rampant in your face in Islam, where grown men are marrying 6-year-old child, marrying little 7-year-old girls, and the Jews filled with all kinds of statements that it's all right to have sex with a child, it's okay to have sex with a 4-year-old, 6-year-old. And we know, of course, as you said, all the ancient pictures and movies about sexual rituals, demonic rituals, always brings in sex. The reason why sex is involved in all of this is because it puts man in connection to some kind of an electrical communicational frequency with the creator.
Well, you mentioned Islam there. I'm trying to be legally correct here, but I must point out this, and I know you know this, but just for our listeners, we're learning almost on a daily basis that maybe even hundreds of thousands of children over the years have been horrifically abused in this country by the political elites, the white political establishment in this country. And we know through the research of David, for example, seem to be able to keep a lid on Jordan. I just want to mention a couple of quick tweets and I'll get out of your way again, because there's so much coming in here and I don't want to ignore all these tweets. People are loving this. This was brought to us by freestyle.com. Andy and the gang there online. Thank you, Andy. The site restored to Ian. Ian asks about women menstruating. Has that got anything to do with that? Maybe you might come back to that in a second. Lynn was on to say, is Jordan talking to that in a minute? Massive amount of tweets there. And Tony says, very, very much spot on this, Tony. Tony says, a lot of the symbols, to back up what Jordan is saying, you can see it around Washington. They even have a statue of Zeus outside the train station there, says Tony. And of course, you've gone on programs with me over the years and you've gotten into, in great detail, the occult symbology around the world, the buildings and the statues. And it's an amazing subject for years and years, Jordan. That's amazing stuff. This 25 minutes past the hour. Has it got anything to do with women menstruating? I mean, that might be a bit off the wall. What do you think?
That's exactly right. And this is why you have the circumcision of boys and girls. You have in Judaism, you have the rabbis cutting the foreskin off the baby and then sucking the blood from the penis. What is all that stuff about?
I'd love to know.
It has to do with some kind of a sexual relationship that the gods want. They want some kind of a connection or have a connection with us, and we connect with the God who created us when we're delving into these rituals of sex. You connect yourself with something higher than you are, something that's out there. So, we have Christians telling us God. Well, ask a 6-year-old, where is God? And they'll point out into the sky. Well, then, so therefore, God is out there. But if God is out there, what about angels? Do you believe in angels? Yes. Where are angels? And the child will point out there. Well, out there is extraterrestrial, meaning God is not here on the earth. He's out there. And so obviously all the religions that have ever been on the earth all agree that God and the extraterrestrial, what we call angels or sons of God or watchers or jinns, whatever you want to call them in your religion, they are out there. They're not here. And therefore they are obviously, all gods are superior to man. And so in order to connect to these gods, you do it through not a telephone call, you do it through sex. And so the whole ejaculation idea puts life into a fluid and it becomes alive. So when you start talking about God, you need to go back and do your homework. What are you talking about? Well, going back to this idea of Revelation 17, where it says, and the woman you saw is the great city that has an empire over the kings of the earth, period. And then in Ephesians 6:12, the Apostle Paul said, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against world rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. Well, when you look at the word in the Bible in Ephesians 6:12, world rulers of darkness, the word is a Greek word called cosmokratoros, spelled Kosmokratoros, cosmokratoros. Cosmocratorus is in English in the Bible, world rulers of darkness, Cosmocratorus, which is where we get the word cosmos, meaning the world, and kratos is the ruler. So the rulers of the world, and the Greek word is cosmokratoros, the world rulers of darkness. And so God, as I said, in Latin is Dios, and in Persian is Diva, meaning evil and demonic gods. So as I said before, a dictionary definition of the situation is that means Christianity and the rest of the world, but especially Christianity, is worshiping a diva or a demonic god. You know, that might explain the wars, the bloodshed, human slavery, sexual rituals for thousands of years. And this is why the scripture says, has Jesus saying, by their fruits you shall know them. Well, the scripture talks about a group of people who came to Jesus, and they had in their hand seeds. And they asked him, what kind of seeds are these? And he said, go plant the seed. Don't ask me a stupid question like that. Go plant the seeds, water it, and watch what comes up. And if apple trees come up, well, that answered your question with apple seeds. But if oranges comes up, then it was an orange seed. So by their fruits, you will know them. So I am saying, what is the fruitage of royalty? What is the fruitage of world religion? What is the fruit of elites running the world? What is the fruitage? Wars, violence, revolution, drug addiction, alcoholism, sexual abuse, lunacy, bloodshed, all of the lunacy that the human mind is capable as being led by, and of course we know this says in the Bible, we're being led by the devil. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. That's what the scripture said. It doesn't say the whole world except for London. No, the whole world, period, is lying in the power of the wicked one. So the idea being expressed in the Bible and by all the ancient world religions are saying the same thing, that the entire earth and all human creatures on it are being led by a higher power in the universe that you don't understand. And that's why the Knights Templars always said, as above, so below. Look at the fruitage of the world system we live under. Look at its fruitage. Look, watching you, and religions are watching you, and they are putting out a lot of stuff on the web to destroy your name, your reputation, and the work you've done for over 50 years. They want to destroy you off the earth. There are a lot of important people that are not happy about your being here, and they want you gone. And so when you're reading all of this scurrilous propaganda and stuff about me, just understand, I'm just an ordinary man trying to do what I've been doing all my life. It's helping people to wake up. I have people who have stolen my website, have stolen my money, who have stolen my emails, who have lied about me, who have set out all kinds of scurrilous propaganda about me. And I sit here with nothing, doing the best I can to educate my fellow man, because I believe this is something I've been given to do. So I just want people to know that.
And they do know it, and wear it like a badge of honor, that sort of harassment, because it means you're affecting what these people want to do, and you're causing, you're the result. The result of what you're doing is millions of people around the world having a moment of pause now and wondering what's going on. Mate, I love having you on the program. It's always great. I look forward to doing this in very early March. We'll keep this monthly show going as long as you want to do it. And I'll just finish this by just saying thanks again, Jordan Maxwell. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being my friend and for having me on the show.
It's an honor to be your friend, Jordan. Thanks very much, buddy. We'll talk again real soon. The great Jordan Maxwell on the line to us there from his home in Los Angeles. Do go to jordanmaxwellshow.com.